Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, July 28th. It'll be another hot day in the Mid-Atlantic region. High temperatures this afternoon in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City certainly should reach the 90s. However, probably a few degrees lower than it was on Monday afternoon. Philly International yesterday reached 95 for a high. Reagan National Airport 96. Central Park, New York City reached 93 degrees, probably lower 90s, most of those areas this afternoon. And there is a chance for some scattered strong thunderstorms later today into tonight as a cool frontal system approaches from the north and west. That cool front will tend to stall out in the southern part of the Mid-Atlantic region at midweek, and it'll lead to more unsettled conditions, especially Thursday going into Friday, and probably a noticeable cool down by the time we end the work week, with highs on Friday afternoon in the same D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, probably confined to the mid, maybe the upper 80s. So we do have some cooler weather coming by the end of the work week, but it remains unsettled, especially in Thursday and Friday. Wednesday may turn out to be a rain-free day, but still pretty hot. Meanwhile, the tropics still an active scene here. We're monitoring closely a wave that is just now approaching the Windward Islands. This wave has not yet intensified enough to become a tropical depression or a named tropical storm. I do believe, however, that it will do so, become a tropical storm within, let's say, 24 hours or so, if not today or tonight, definitely by tomorrow. It is in an area of rather favorable environmental conditions for some intensification. If indeed it becomes a named tropical storm, that would be the ninth of this early part of the 2020 tropical season. It would be Isaias, that begins with an I, the ninth storm of the season. Let's take a look at a global mosaic infrared satellite imagery. First we'll look at a still shot, and then we'll look at the loop here. This available from the CIMSS University of Wisconsin website. Here is our tropical wave of interest. It's a large wave, but notice not really symmetrical, not really concentric in terms of the center. You would like to see a more concentrated low-level circulation center, and I believe that will happen within the next 24 hours or so. Again, kind of a broad area of low pressure right now. It is large, but rather broad and disorganized. Again, it should become more and more concentric over the next 12, 24, 48 hours or so, and that will likely coincide with intensification and perhaps a naming of the system to Tropical Storm Isaias. Before we animate this satellite imagery and go through a 2-day loop, I want to point out a couple other waves here. Look, another tropical wave right behind it in the eastern Atlantic, yet another one over the western part of Africa, and finally another one over the central part of Africa. So this is the time of the year where activity really ramps up, and it certainly is living up to that climatology here across the Atlantic Basin and the continent of Africa. Let's now put this in motion. And here we see this first tropical wave. This is the one that we're monitoring right now. We'll worry about these others over the next several days, but this is the one that could have an impact on the southeast U.S. by the early part of next week, let's say the Sunday, Monday time frame. Looks like it'll continue on a west-northwest track, fairly rapid speed, maybe 15 miles per hour or so, maybe 17, 18, and head towards the northern Caribbean islands, and then ultimately the Bahamas. And whether or not it reaches Florida, still uncertain, but it's certainly on the table, and it may be largely dependent on an upper-level trough that will be sliding into the south-central U.S. over the weekend and deepen by the early part of next week into this part of the nation. We'll take a look at that on computer forecast models in a moment. That may be a key factor as to the ultimate storm track of this particular system. Again, the southeast U.S. is certainly on the table for a possible impact by this tropical system by early next week. We're talking maybe Sunday, Monday time frame. Well, here's the official map by the NOAA's National Hurricane Center. They're based in Miami, Florida, and this is the location of this particular tropical wave. Again, not yet classified as a tropical depression, let alone a tropical storm, but I do believe within 24 to 48 hours it will intensify enough to become the 9th named tropical storm of the season so far. We've only had one, Hannah, that actually reached hurricane status. So while we have a very unusually high number of storms so far, what we call the ACE factor, the accumulated cyclone energy, is really not all that high. It is above normal, but certainly not near any kind of record level for this stage of the season, especially given the fact that we have had 8 tropical storms, 1 hurricane included in that. ACE, the accumulated cyclone energy, takes into consideration both the magnitude of the tropical system and the longevity. So it's really the best way to measure overall tropical activity, even better than just counting the number of storms, because again, we have had a record number for this early in the season of tropical storms. But in terms of their strength and duration, not a record. Most of them have been rather short-lived, as a matter of fact, and only 1 of the 8 has actually reached hurricane status so far. This one looks like a relatively long-lasting possibility here. If it becomes a tropical storm, let's say within 24 hours, it very well could remain at least a tropical storm status into the early part of next week. Looks like it's headed in general west to northwest direction. Could again impact the northern Caribbean islands, let's say Puerto Rico, and then Haiti, Dominican Republic, and ultimately work its way towards the Bahamas. And again, the southeast U.S. right in this region right here is certainly within the realm of possibility of some kind of impact by the latter part of the weekend into the early part of next week. Well, one final note. Notice there is no X right here marking that other wave that we just saw in the satellite imagery. But don't be surprised if NOAA's National Hurricane Center picks up on that lagging tropical wave that just emerged off the west coast of Africa within the past couple of days, and maybe something else that is on the map here by later today, or certainly by tonight or tomorrow. Well, let's now walk through the ensemble run of the GFS from 6Z, and we're looking at 500 millibar height anomalies over the next several days. And again, I believe there'll be an upper-level trough that drops into the south-central part of the country over the weekend. It'll intensify. It'll become quite an impressive trough for this time of the year, and that very well could end up dictating where that tropical system ends up going. Will it reach the U.S. Coast, or will it be pushed out to sea? And this is an initial upper-level wave that is not the one I'm talking about here for the upcoming weekend. This represents the positioning of that surface frontal system, a cool front, that could cause some strong thunderstorms in the mid-Atlantic, in the northeast U.S. later today into tonight. So let's move forward here and watch the development at the upper level pattern here. Again, we're looking at 500 millibar height anomalies. And here we are by Thursday, already seeing the signs of a developing upper level system here, upper level trough in this case, over the heart of the nation here on Thursday. That becomes a key player. Here we go now into Friday. Notice off the very southeast corner here of this particular forecast map domain, we see a closed off height here. That actually is the position of that tropical wave by the time we get into the end of the week, going to the Friday time frame, approaching the Bahamas. And meanwhile, we have this upper level feature here intensifying over the middle part of the nation. Then we get into Saturday morning. Here is the location as indicated by this ensemble run of the GFS, and again a deep upper level trough kind of dropping, digging to the south and east and intensifying. Now if this were to speed up or slow down, that could have an impact on the ultimate movement of that tropical system. If it were to weaken quickly from this point on, that could have an impact on where this tropical system ends up. Just a little too early to tell the specifics here, but this is a key player that we'll watch for, and this is by Sunday. And here is that tropical wave, certainly a threat for the southeast U.S. But look at this, very impressive upper level trough. Now, there's multiple possible scenarios here. This system could slow down, let's say down here in that tropical, the upper level feature could scoot on by, leaving this behind. That's on the table. This could get kind of absorbed by that by the upper level low, and then pushed off to the north and east as this continues to progress. There's an outside chance that this system stays farther south and cuts underneath that upper level trough and maybe slides across the Florida Straits. That's an outside chance right now, but these are the kind of things that we'll look for over the next few days. Let's push forward here, and here we are by the time we get into Monday. Very impressive upper level feature, and then the ensemble run of the GFS tends to kind of wipe out that tropical system. Also on the table, that it tends to weaken before it ever makes an impact on the U.S. But again, this is a key player here. Very impressive upper level trough for this time of the year, moving into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, the South Central U.S. Well, let's now walk through the surface forecast maps from the 6E operational run of the GFS. A few showers and thunderstorms already up across upstate Pennsylvania, western New York. That'll tend to widen in terms of the coverage of these radar echoes by later this afternoon. Some of these storms can become strong and produce some heavy rainfall anywhere along the I-95 corridor region, anywhere in the Mid-Atlantic region later this afternoon into the early part of the evening. Now, while there can be a shower or a thunderstorm during the midday and early afternoon hours, the most likely timetable will be kind of typical for summer afternoon, summer evening type showers and thunderstorms, let's say 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. or so. And again, all associated with a weak cool frontal system that is dropping to the south and east. Then we get into the overnight hours. Front probably drops far enough to the south and east to produce a rain-free day on Wednesday in Philly, D.C., New York City, much of the Mid-Atlantic region, and it will be hot once again. We'll reach 90-plus degrees most likely on Wednesday afternoon. Then that front kind of stalls out and kind of turns back and heads to the north, and it becomes more unsettled. On Thursday, there'll be a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Thursday night, even into Friday, and here we are on Friday morning. Notice the surface map has that tropical wave now approaching the Bahama Islands, and yet there's a reflection here at the surface from that upper level low, and now a surface low pressure area over the south central U.S. All of this interaction will be the key to the ultimate positioning, the ultimate movement of that tropical system by Saturday morning over the Bahamas. Meanwhile, surface low over the south central U.S. And again, the interaction between those two will be key. By the time we get to Sunday morning, the surface forecast map from the 6E GFS has a tropical system closing in, it appears, on the east coast of Florida. Still a little too early to be specific about the ultimate storm track here for this tropical system, which again over the next 24 to 48 hours or so should become the 9th tropical storm of the Atlantic Basin season, named Isaias, the I storm. And again, it looks like it's headed initially for the northern Caribbean islands, then the Bahamas, and one of the key factors as to whether or not it ultimately reaches the southeast U.S. will be that digging upper level low pressure area over the south central U.S. over the weekend and into early part of next week. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.